Could the market be melting down? Today we'll be breaking that down along with where crypto is heading. Also, the conflict in Iran. This will get us an idea of where the market is heading. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is BTCC. You guys can head over there to btcc.com. We'll use a link down below. Use that link. You get an additional 10% off your trading fees. There's some additional features that you get, all by just using our link down below. And the best thing you get to do there is really get into copy trading. You can, of course, go over into a whole new user experience they have. This is the place to be. So check out btcc.com using our link in the description. If you look at the chart right now, guys, I'm looking at the ETH chart, a nice significant move here to 2,300, up quite a bit, 20% just in the last few days. If you look at Bitcoin, also trading at about, I think that was about a 12% up when you look at where Bitcoin is trading. And one thing that is interesting to me is the fact that we have continued to see where not only Bitcoin and ETH are going, but could we see an altcoin season? I'm going to get into that a little bit later here in the episode. But before I go there, I want to kind of frame this up because there's a lot of things happening in the S&P 500. You look at the market, and I think you probably saw us talking about this over the last couple of weeks. Watch out, we could be seeing a little bit of a rotation of capital coming out of the S&P 500. And of course, right there, you can kind of see some of the indicators. 2 trillion coming off and wiped from the market right now. We have seen this before. Now, we haven't seen it in such a short time. That's another factor that will play into this. So be on the lookout there, because as we see more pain coming into the S&P 500, and there could be, then it's very possible that we could probably see more movement on what's going on with crypto. Another factor that you have to look at is rising gas prices, 27% in a very short period of time. We're up to $3.72 per gallon. This is the largest, I shouldn't say the largest, it's the fastest increase that we've had in the last 30 years. If you look at the chart, you can kind of see it right here, the explosion of where we are right now. All of this being instructed into the market, mainly for what's going on in the Strait of Harmouz and with Iran. The last time we saw this was during a global pandemic. It took about 6 months to see a 37% move. So you can see, guys, we are on our way. Now, does that mean that the market is going to get more and more pressure? This also plays into how the economic frame starts to play into this. Look at this. Surging gas price now is fueling employee pushback. This is against return to office mandates. Even though it's not completely similar to what happened in 2021, the fact that I think the fear is there of people saying, hey, the cost of gas going up to $5 a gallon like it did during the Ukraine war, this is a real deal. And I think this is a factor that people need to play into, is because remember, a lot of this is built on market sentiment, how people are feeling about the economy. And right now, people are not feeling good about the economy. And that means one thing. It means we are going to continue to see pain. One of the things that's going to cause that pain is what's happening in the Straits. When you look at this tweet by the KBC letter, which, by the way, big shout out to them. They're doing a great job on covering this. They're looking at both straits, the Hormuz Strait, and then let me bring up this image because this is very significant. The Strait of Hormuz and the Strait of the Bab al-Mandabb Strait, these are the two choke points that you have in the Middle East. Both are on each side of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has a big pipeline. They're shuttling, fuel and oil over to the other coast, but that coast still has to go through this one. Between these two, you have the number 1 and the number 4 choke point via supply setting up right now in what's going on with this conflict. And this is going to get more pain if we don't get out of there. If you look at the tracker right now, the cost tracker is getting significant right there, 21 billion, and we're starting to lose more Americans. I think this is going to be the biggest issue right there. How many service members we continue to lose. This is the problem that I think Trump is going to face. He's got to get out of there. The off-ramp has to start, and it has to start now. So I want to go to a clip real quick because this will get into the frame of why this market is where it is. Here's a clip here that talks about this could be the worst month yet. Take a look.
Are you more bearish after the weekend's events, the commentary around the Middle East?
I am probably more bearish. I was feeling pretty negative on Friday. I'm feeling pretty negative again today. I mean, the MSCI All Country World Index is heading for its worst month since September 2022, worst month in almost 3 years. I still don't think they've fallen enough. The stocks keep on falling, but in this jagged fashion. They keep on bouncing back impressively in the European morning and then kind of heading lower later on as we realize there's no kind of salvation yet. So I think the outlook's very poor. And it goes back to your kind of initial question there, Lizzie. You know, how are markets reading the fact that countries aren't forthcoming for providing support for the Strait of Harmouz? I think everyone knows that most of the world, barring probably Russia and Iran, want the strait to be open again, and therefore people would like to help. But what is the goal here? I mean, you know, Bloomberg had a story out of the weekend saying people are a bit confused what Trump's goals are. It isn't clear the U.S. administration knows what their goals are. So, you know, at the moment, all this does is highlight the fact that there's no easy resolution in sight, and that's why I think stocks need to price materially lower still.
All right, so the thing that I think sets off the market the most right now is the uncertainty. And that's kind of what I think the Trump administration has been able to dictate is uncertainty is for sure the one cornerstone that is happening. And when you think about uncertainty, you have to look at some of the other things that are happening just here in the United States. One, of course, is getting to where we have the U.S. Airline CEOs asking Congress to restore funding to Homeland Security. This is all talking about TSA. I don't know if you guys have been trying to fly here recently. It's a big problem right now. It has become more of a stopgap that we're dealing with now with U.S. travel. This is only more narratives that are not good, I think, for President Trump and the current administration of where things are going. S&P all-time high buy. Many people saying March 31st, not a chance. It was up here end of February at 78%. Guys, it is March 16th, and it has plummeted to 14%. That's right. Plummeted from 60 plus, almost 70% to 14%. Think about that right there. That is loss of confidence in the market. And I think Cudmore is right. It is a scenario around instability, the market instability, and then what we're dealing with on a global standpoint right now. So it's getting worse and worse. One thing it is not getting worse for right now is crypto. Crypto, because many people kind of thought, hey, crypto is the one place where we could see rotation. And if you look at gold starting to fall, has been over the last 10 days. You look at the S&P 500, we're starting to see rotation coming out. You look even at money markets and ETFs, other than inflows to ETFs on Bitcoin and ETH. But the key here is right now, we've got all of this setting up to where we're seeing a rotation into possibly Bitcoin and ETH. And as we're recording right now, Bitcoin is well above 74K again, with ETH hitting 2,300, one of the largest points hit, as I said earlier. Other thing is you got to look at is the altcoin chart right here. This is on the Fear and Greed Index, but if you look at altcoins starting to move quickly, about a season that actually could be brewing. If you look at the Fear and Greed, look at this spike right here. That's a spike that we have seen since the 7th of February, which is when we were in the doldrums, hovering at about 10, now coming in at 43. This is the largest spike since Liberation Day, and part of this is what we're seeing around U.S. investors. Bitcoin, of course, zooming up to 74K, another 793 million of ETF inflows. The other thing you got to look at right here is the fact that we're seeing this all around U.S. investors. And I think one thing, if you consider that, this is positive, I think, for crypto markets in general. I'm curious how the global market is going to curtail behind this, or do they? And do we get more of a move here in actuality, possibly a shift in the market completely into Bitcoin, which is really where it's been going. We did a poll real quick, given the macro backdrop, war, oil, spike, and then, of course, weak stocks. Will Bitcoin hit the 80K mark? Right now, it is leading at 34% yes, but there is still a strong contingent that says, no, it's not going to hit 80K. So let me know what you guys think. Hit some comments down below. Just put Bitcoin 80K or Bitcoin wherever you think. Let me know. We'll get into that. One other thing you got to look at is the Clarity Act. And this, of course, is a little bit more promising because you're starting to see the movement right here from that 56% low popping up to 61. So a nice move up. Many people speculating that there is a deal on the table that might end up getting this across the line. Let's jump over to a tweet real quick. Or actually a post here by Eleanor. One thing that is for sure is the Senate Making Committee. This is going to be Tim Scott. He's going to be attending the event. They're in DC this week. And he's going to be asked the big question here, which is when the committee is going to hold the next markup. For him to know that, he's got to understand that negotiations are well underway. Cody Carbone in the same article believes negotiations between the crypto industry and banks are nearing a conclusion and could happen as early as this week. So this is what I'm hearing from some of my DC contacts, is that there is a potential concession being worked out. So be on the lookout for that, guys. That is where we are. BlackRock, of course, is starting to move heavily into ETH staking. And if you look at one of the key things here, the Ethereum ETF, already the third fastest ETF in history to 10 billion. And this is all building around some new elements around institutional investors. They're going to absolutely start to move this market. I think these are the key things, especially for ETH, that could really break it out. One thing that is of note here is that World Liberty Finance, which has USD1, is now looking at incentives on USD1. That passed with the 99.12% approval. So they're going to be for yields. So that could be drawing the line right now in the clarity conversion of, do we get yields? Do we not get yields? Is it going to be an active or a passive situation that's coming out of the Clarity Act negotiations? I think that is going to be huge. If you look at the market, though, this is on DeFi Llama, you'll notice that stablecoin has been moving up and up and up and up in terms of total value, total market cap. But what's happening here, even though we're not seeing continued rise, think about this. Bitcoin is 74, Ethereum at 23, up 20%, 12% respectively. And yet at the same time, we're seeing kind of a flat move right here. That means new money coming into the market. And that is a good sign for crypto. I want to get into a couple of clips here. And the first one, which would, I think, cause new money and old money to get in the market faster, is how does Trump navigate the midterms? Here's a clip of Anthony Scaramucci talking about that. Take a look.
He does not want to go into the midterms with a ground war. It's polling at 12%. This is the worst polling war, below Korea, below all the other wars. He's already signaled that to his friends in the Gulf. And the one thing that I want to address here is Trump likes money.
Yeah.
And he gets money from the Israeli donors. He gets money from Sheldon Adelson's widow. And he's getting a lot of money from the Gulf states in terms of these real estate deals that his kids keep announcing. Yeah. He's got $4 billion that he's made so far in the first term.
PIF.
The PIF, and he doesn't want that pulled away from him. And whether Trump supporters that listen to your show like it or not, he's motivated by money. He's motivated by attention, and I think those two things are going to
legacy at this point, though, too.
Pull him out of the conflict.
You think legacy's number one?
At this point in life,
okay, you don't think legacy's number
You
one?
think an extra $1 billion is more important than legacy when you're worth $5 billion? But
if legacy's number one,
you see now you're thinking like you're not thinking like Trump.
You don't think he wants to be remembered as the greatest president that did all these things?
I think it's secondary. I think the three things are money, attention. He's got to have us talking about him, and then the third thing is if I generally do a good job, as long as it keeps inside the ambit of my self-interest, then that's fine.
All right. So whether you agree with that or not, you have to agree with the data, because the data now, polling data, as well as what's happening on Polymarket, and Polymarket has been very accurate when it comes to the political spectrum. Look at this move here. Obviously, we saw this around what happened with ICE. But you consistently see a movement here. All of this, I think, is economic, jobs, issues like that, until we get into the war, and then boom. You've got the war, the economy, you've got ICE, you've got all these issues coming to a head at once, and you have a flippening occurring right here. The Republican Party is now, we showed this last week, and the Republican Party was right here at about 60%. That means just in a short period of time, since February the 27th to the 16th of March, they have lost 20% in probability of getting back in. And this is a problem for the Senate, especially because it does mean that Trump loses the Senate, he becomes a lame duck president, and this becomes a major factor. Many people say, though, hey, markets have always performed, especially crypto markets, have always performed well in lame duck presidencies. We've seen it before. What do you guys think? Do you think we're there? I want to play another clip because Scaramucci went on to some key things that other countries think about President Trump. Take a look.
Anthony, you really think Russia, Iran, and China would prefer a Trump president?
Let me answer with a question. Has China, by our adversaries and our allies, been perceived as being a more stable trading partner than the United States under Donald Trump too? Yes or no?
You didn't answer my question, though.
Well, I did answer it because China is doing way better with Trump as president. Way better as Trump as president. And if they want to take Taiwan, Trump has given them ample license to do that. But trust me, the minute that they have the military capability of doing that, they want to do that. But the Chinese are doing way better in the global economy.
Are they really?
They are.
All right. So I'm kind of on the fence with this because I think that China has, well, their economies have been challenged. I think if you look at the amount of unemployment that's going on in China, but he is right, Scaramucci is right, is that it has opened up markets for them. Granted, the United States is still their number one market, but it has opened up other markets. So if they were to regain the United States, and it might just be a waiting game, waiting until Trump's out of office, regain the United States, keep all of that additional market growth that they got. That is what's happening right now. And I think Scaramucci's kind of right on this. But at the same time, this could also go sour on China very quickly. All of that is dependent on how Trump deals with what's going on in Iran. The fact that he has so many of these special meetings occurring, though, is very, very key. One problem, if you look at Takeichi right here, this is the Japanese prime minister, she has been showing right here that she's not feeling well. And this is a concern because Trump's summit with Japan was set up to start. And if she's not, could we end up getting delayed on that? Not only that, you've got the issue of Trump possibly getting delayed here on a summit with Xi. Take a look at this clip.
Yes, there has been a lot of speculation when the Iran war first broke out whether that summit will be derailed. And this is the first time we're hearing from President Trump that he might delay the summit. And the precondition here is that China contributes to keeping the Strait of Harmouz open and send warships to that area. But if you just read the state-linked media reports so far, China views the root cause of the conflict as the U.S. and Israel attacks on Iran. And they view this move by President Trump essentially as dragging other countries in a war that it started. And so far, China's stance on Iran has been no more than rhetorical support, right? And it's very unlikely, at least in the past, China has been quite unwilling to put boots on the ground and put military backing in a conflict that is far away from home. So it's not clear how willing they are to really accede to President Trump's request. But, 2 weeks is a long time, and maybe there could be some sort of face-saving gesture in the lead up to the summit, and potentially it could still happen. It's really hard to say at this point.
All right. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I don't think it will. I think China and Russia both are in a position where they can probably sit and watch how this turns out. Could they get forced into it? Sure. I mean, just the supply situation could get dire if you look at some of the reserves that are out there globally. But that would be some time that would have to occur. I don't think Trump has that much time for him to be able to rotate this in. Bessent even goes on to talk about this. He talks about the fact that China's trade deal is not going to be because of the Strait of Harmouz. Take a look.
And there's a false narrative out there that if the meetings are delayed, it wouldn't be delayed because the president's demanded that China police the Straits of Harmouz. It would be
because there was a report out to that effect this morning.
That's completely false. So if the meeting for some reason is rescheduled, it would be rescheduled because of logistics. The president wants to remain the NDC to coordinate the war effort.
One other factor when you listen to what Bessent said is Trump's got to do some things. He's dealing with the war, and I get it. That's a fair assessment. But the fact that you are meeting with Xi Jinping, this would be like a Putin meeting. These don't come very often. So Trump has an opportunity. Here's the polymarket on this. All of a sudden, this was March 15th. Yesterday, it's at 90%. 90%. The only thing major that occurred was maybe the CARG idea, where they're going to go in and put troops in the CARG to try to control production. Maybe it was the NATO thing where Trump was asking NATO to come in and nobody's, ringing the bell. but it dropped on Polymarket from 90% to 63% in 12 hours. Another thing that this leads into is tariffs, because this, of course, is a huge factor in global trade, China being one of the biggest players out there. This is why it has to happen. This is a must-go-to meeting. I don't get why we're down at 63% chance right now. Something else is brewing here, and it could be all of what's happening there. Well, most likely all of what's happening in Iran, and China wants to step back a bit. Other things that are happening this week that could continue to put some pressure on the market. You got the U.S. Market opens after the Iran's Karg Island strike, which is maybe the one that caused this. And then you've got the ADP employment change. That I'm concerned with because I think employment's going to continue to be down. PPI, core PPI comes out. And then also on the 18th, we'll get a FOMC meeting. So we'll probably do that one live for you guys. We always like to cover Chair Powell. And this is going to be a big one because it will give us the indicator. Remember, this is March. I think this might be his last one before he gets ousted. But he's going to give us an indicator on what he feels inflation is doing after he's taking it in the chops when it comes to jobs. So we're going to be watching that one very, very closely. It'll be a factor for sure. Another thing, of course, Powell related is that the judge has now blocked the subpoena against the Fed chair. And the DOJ is, of course, set to appeal this. This was bad news for the DOJ. Good news for Chair Powell. Maybe you'll feel good and say, hey, maybe I'm going to do some rate cuts here. But I got a clip for you to kind of sum it up. Take a look.
Jerome Powell today is now bathed in immunity. This judge is shockingly requiring the government to show something akin to probable cause. And those are his words. It doesn't matter where a case comes from. I can have a suspicion. I can read the newspaper. I can just want to make sure he didn't commit a crime. So don't make the judges wrong on his dates. And I can do so when I can merely on the suspicion that the law is being violated. So what is the law? What is the law? He is wrong. That's why we're not only appealing, we're making a motion to reconsider. Next question.
For assurance that the investigation into Powell has ended it. Are you willing to concede?
Did you hear what I just said? Oh, cut it out. Do you know how many convictions we've got? Cut it out. Yeah, historic, really? I'll deal with the devil if you can give me information that will lead me to possibly find a crime. Thank you.
Well, U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, very spitting angry.
Yeah, I would call that a meltdown a little bit there. But where does the crime come from? Interesting. Trying to fit a person to the crime or a crime to the person. Not sure, but what I can say, not a good look for the DOJ. Hopefully things are going to get better, guys. But this week will be interesting. Stay tuned. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.